So I went to training at in St. Louis at Scott Field. 6 months of radio operator training, which included learning Morse code and lots of things about radio communications. That turned out to be a very helpful thing for me later on. I also went to gunnery school in Central Field, Florida, airborne gunnery school. And despite what most people say, I'm one of the folks who were happy when the bomb fell, because we already been told that we were going to go fly and bomb Japan from 25 feet to 2,500 feet, and 70% of us weren't coming home. And those numbers I didn't care much for. The rest of my time, I came back from the Army at the end of the war, went to college. First I went to elementary education training in the district. And when they put me in my first class for training with children, none of them came to my kneecaps, and I decided I didn't want to play. I went off to become a mathematician, which was my forte at the National Security Agency, where I spent the next 30 happy years. Thank you.
As you can see, very diverse stories that meet in the same place, Tuskegee. So we're a little out of order right now. We actually have a gentleman, Colin Wilkie, who actually prepared an introduction today, which we can use at any time. So I want to have Colin Wilkie come up and present his remarks, and then we'll have a few questions.
Good morning. It is with honor, respect, and admiration that I introduce our next guest speakers. In 1940, President Franklin D. Roosevelt ordered the Army Air Corps to establish an all-black flying unit. However, due to prejudice, it was not until the spring of 1941 when the first African Americans began training as flight support units and pilots at the Tuskegee Institute in Central Alabama. On March 7, 1942, the first African American pilots were inducted into the U.S. Army Air Corps. The first Tuskegee Airmen to perform in the field were from the 99th Squadron, flying P-40s in Italy. The 99th later joined with the 100th, the 301st, and the 302nd to form the All-African American 332nd Fighter Group. The 332nd began using Mustangs, in which they painted the nose and tails red, earning them the nickname the Red Tails. The Tuskegee Airmen flew more than 15,000 combat sorties and destroyed 111 enemy aircraft in air combat, another 150 on the ground, 950 railcars, trucks, and other motor vehicles, 1 destroyer, and no bombers were lost under their escort from enemy aircraft. Their success came at a cost. 66 pilots were killed in action or accidents, and 32 pilots were downed and captured. They earned 150 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 744 Air Medals, 8 Purple Hearts, and 14 Bronze Stars. Please give a warm welcome to William Fauntroy Jr., Jim Pride, and Ivan Ware.
Just a demonstration of the effort, the history, and the willingness to learn about history. I would say that was a great presentation.
Amen.
Some of those questions that usually come up, I'll ask, and then I'll have the gentleman respond. And then, once again, you can formulate some of your personal questions from their briefings that they gave. one of the main things that people usually ask, did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Yes. I had the biggest argument with my mother when I came out of the service about universal military training. She hated the idea of war. She hated the idea that her son had to go away to war. I'm the oldest of 5 young men. Some of you will recognize my name only because my brother was the first congressman for the District of Columbia several years ago. And he is a minister. We have, in our family, 3 Army veterans, myself, my brother Gerald, and my baby brother Kenneth. I was an advocate of universal military training when I came out of the service. And my mother hated that idea. But that was one of the influences because of the people that I met in the service that I had. I met C. Alfred Anderson, who taught every Tuskegee Airman, including General Davis, how to fly. He was the man in charge of Moton Field. I met 2 young men in Keesterfield, Mississippi, who influenced me. They became lifelong friends. One of them has passed and one of them is still living. James Bryson and Miles Washington. I met them in Keesterfield, Mississippi. They were college men. And as I told you earlier, I had not completed high school. But they made an impression on me that made me want to be a college man. And I, like Ivan, went to Howard University and have a degree in civil engineering. If you came here by Metro, you can thank me. I was the first black engineer with Metro when they started at Jackson Place across from the White House. And I'm very proud of the work that I've done with Metro, and I think much of it is influenced by my experience with the Tuskegee Airmen.
Well, somebody said that war is hell. They were correct.
Amen.
When my mother sent me off to the war, she said, "Bubby, you take care of yourself and don't you hurt anybody." Mother's ideas of war were a little different. Didn't prepare me for the horrors that I had seen. But I had 2 uncles who had been in the service in World War I. Both of them had gotten to France, and they had 2 different ideas of war, and it probably had a lot to do with their personalities. One hated every minute he spent in the service. He was rather withdrawn. The other one was an extrovert, and he enjoyed going to foreign places, meeting foreign people, and doing different things. And the fact that he was able to survive it, of course, he had memories that he passed on that were positive and made you think that this was a positive thing. My own experiences made me wonder, really, whether I was interested in being a part of this opportunity to be in World War II.